Hey everyone, welcome back to an exciting episode of Tech Productions. Today I, Bancroft, being joined once again by Jimmy
Sir.
as we go over his skillless baby deck profile. Now, I want to clarify this intro is recorded after we actually record the profile because there was a lot of confusion with the wording of the way how battle cards interacting with getting their skills wiped and whatnot. And throughout the whole profile, we're like, we don't know if this is going to be a thing because 17-18 might be broken if they don't fix it. April 8th of 2019 is when this rule actually was added to the rule book, and we just missed it. Jimmy, we'll go over it real quick.
Yeah, so this kind of stems from a lot of confusion within a judge Discord chat that I'm in. And it's mainly East Coast judges, which we don't know if there's like some kind of correlation with the confusion on this ruling. Back in around Destroyer Kings, when 4-star ball and the skillless Kid Q stuff come in and became very popular, a lot of questions come up on what constitutes as a skillless battle card. A battle card, obviously a card with no text is a skillless battle card, but a card that has been negated with something like Cold Bloodlust or any of the other cards that negate skills, do those constitute as skillless battle cards? Now, a lot of the judges at the time referred to a rule 832. If an effect specifies that a skill is partially or totally invalid under specific conditions, the invalid skill is recognized as a skill, but its effects aren't activated. Meaning that the card is still considered a skilled card, but not a skillless battle card, even though the skills cannot be activated. And that ruling was held up a lot in reference to 4-star ball interactions and started kind of a dichotomy where once I started reaching out to some of the European judges and some of the West Coast judges, they mentioned the rule 834. If all of a card's skills are invalid, the card is treated as a skillless card, which if you read that, it might be confusing on the first read over because it seems like both skills are contradicting each other, which is what a lot of confusion come in.
But if you're a Yu-Gi-Oh player that came from like Yu-Gi-Oh, you know to read like specifically the language of the text, which is where the difference occurs.
Yeah. So in 832, it specifies a skill, meaning one particular skill on the card. With 834, specifies all of a card's skills. So when a card is totally negated, it becomes a skillless battle card. I have reached out to Bandai to get a official word in case there is a unintended effect due to the ruling, and I also requested, if this is the case, to display this ruling a little bit more clearly in the rule text, because even experienced judges are getting this rule wrong, including myself, and also new players reading the rule book for the first time are also getting this rule wrong. So in the video and in the deck duel, we did refer to this and got really confused about the ruling. We do sound like idiots, so please try to enjoy the deck profile and ignore most of the stuff that we say, because we do think the deck is really cool and has some really cool interactions.
So yeah, instead of re-recording, like, hey, why did you just do that? We just want you all to see us look like idiots for a moment.
Yeah, for sure.
Because we're not perfect.
Yeah. So if you stuck with us this long, because at the beginning of the video there's a little thing, you just skipped this point. Thanks for staying for the PSA. With that being said, hope you all enjoy.
If you know me, if you've been around the channel, I am the #1 Baby fan. Baby's my favorite character in all of Dragon Ball, so anytime that I can play Baby and do something new with the deck, I will automatically do it. So Baby, on enter into the battlefield, he does play Planet Tuffle. Planet Tuffle is your key piece of the deck. It reduces the cost of all counters in your hand by 1 that are energy cost 5 or less, and then you can activate main to strike a life and then pitch a card to the bottom of the deck. So it's a good self-awakener. You don't get a lot of value off of this, but it keeps the quality of cards in your hand very high. And then just draw 1, awaken at 4 life, draw 2. If you don't run the French ones, then you're bad at the game. You have to run the French ones. On the backside of Baby, he's Overlord, so pitch a servant to the bottom of the deck, which is very important for our skillless chain. Auto, you draw 1 card, activate main, search top 3 for a counter, add it to your hand, then place one card from your hand at the bottom of the deck, which we'll get into this because normally this is kind of just you're just fixing the quality of the cards, but we have cards that mitigate the downsides of having to pitch cards at the bottom of the deck. So getting straight into our super combo spread, I run one Zeno. He's just a 1-drop cantrip that's really nice, and it allows you to be kind of sloppy with your energy charges because you can just pick it back up later in the game. So I always like running one of these in a blue deck. Another super combo that I really enjoy is Zamasu. This card is just clutch. It's essentially a negate for a future battle card swing that happens in the battle phase. So you don't want to be entering the battle phase a lot, so I only run one of these because you just one precise Zamasu can shut down an entire turn if you play it right. And then 2 draw Vegetas. Like I said, you're not going to be entering the battle phase a lot with this deck. You're going to be spending a lot of your super combo resources on your turn. So this is just for digging for your pieces, or if you're in a bad position, you can possibly eke out a couple of attacks on your opponent's turn. Moving into the negate package, we got Mechiorp. You have to run him. He's a 1 cost that restands in energy on negate, and he's a 15k body. Just incredible card. There is no reason not to run it in Baby, and also run the French ones. Baby the Body Snatcher, one of the more important pieces of the deck in this variation. So he's a counter attack that also untaps an energy on play, and then he's Overlord. So this will give you a Overlord on your front side for cheap for 1 energy and negates an attack. So you don't have to awaken to start your skillless chain. Dimension Magic, standard blue. Revenge Big Bang Attack. This is just an upgraded Dimension Magic for Baby. Of course, you're going to run it if you have them. I thought I had 4 of them, but apparently I only had 3. So run as many as you got. And if you do have 4, just swap out a Dimension Magic for it. It's just fine running 3 Dimension Magics because Big Bang is just a better version of it. Gohan, Baby's Minion. This is just a the Diet Topo. Counterattack. He is Servant, so he's a 25k swing, and Servant is important because we want to have targets to put at the bottom of the deck for a card that we will see in the future. But on play, anytime your opponent wants to attack, they have to bottom deck a card. So he's Diet Topo. A lot of people will not want to waste attacks when this is in play because you're going to have more negates in hand and you're going to keep negating their future attacks. So they're essentially just pitching cards at the bottom of the deck for no reason and letting you build your field. So this is essentially a full power Topo, but for whatever. A consistency booster. I am not the biggest fan of this card. I know there's been a lot of talk at the locals. I know Fluff is a big fan of it. I know Trevor's been a big fan of it and it's worked really well for him in Zamasu. But it's just search top 2, untap an energy. And you can add any card to your hand and you don't have to reveal. So this card is really good for consistency boosting. It's just, most of the time I'd rather just have the card that I want in the hand instead of this. But I just threw it in there because it's really the best blue consistency booster in the game. So the main negate you want is Bula. So she's a 1-drop negate and she has Servant, so she's a 15k body. Put some damage through. But you want to see this one because it's cheap to play, it's early, and you can search it out with your leader or any of your consistency boosters that you need. And you want to pair it with Toa the next move. So when this card dropped, I was super hyped for it because I love the Overlord and Servant skill. And I felt like the Overlord and Servant skill was kind of looked over and was not really fully fleshed out. But I feel like this card actually fixes a lot of the issues with it. Because when you activate Overlord, you can reveal this card, pay 1, you play Toa, and then you look at the bottom card of your deck. If it's a card with a Servant skill with an energy cost of 3 or less, you can play it in rest mode. So it lets you keep reoccurring your Servant skills and keep getting that consistent draw every turn. But it's important in this deck because it will negate the skill. And that comes into the new ruling due to how Bandai is kind of referring to cards now with when their skills are negated, they will be considered a skillless card, which works perfectly into the chain, which we will get into in just a moment. I'm going to put this just to the other side so we can come back to it. So, Mekikbora, it's just Pithing Needle. If you know your matchups, this card is going to be exceedingly valuable as better you know your matchup. If you don't, it's still worth running because you can activate main to search out the Dragon Balls that you run in the list, which we will get to in a moment. This card is just incredible, and if you know your matchups well, you can shut down entire turns. Some more counters. Gohan, Baby's Minion, or Goten, my bad. Counterplay, if it's a 4 or less, goes to the bottom of the deck. Servant, so he's a 20k attacker, and Servant is important. And I couldn't find my second Goten. I don't know why. It's uncommon. I should have like 100 of them, but I just could not find them, so I just threw in the other baby. It does pretty much the same thing as Gohan, but he will untap an energy, so he's technically a 1-drop counterplay, which is fantastic. And he has Overlord. So if you see him early enough, you can use him instead of having to awaken or see your baby the Body Snatcher. So I would probably run 2 Goten just so you have more servant targets. If not, just run Baby Parasite or just cut it all together. But getting into the main chain, so I run the Janemba package. And if you know anything about the Janemba package, it is very aggressive. It is very good. It's very energy efficient too. You get a lot of attacks, a lot of draws, a lot of board clear for little to no energy. I think really you only need 2 total energy to go through the entire chain. Of course, you do have to be on turn 3 to have 3 energy for Janemba. But this is important because his activate main will pick up a skillless battle card with energy cost of 2 or 3 and then play this card. And then he becomes he's a critical dual attacker. And at the end of the turn, he will get warped, but most of the time you're going to be targeting him with a Dragon Ball, so he will, that's redundant. But how this works is you negate with Bula, you get a free swing in for 15, you activate Overlord on any of your cards that have Overlord, you pitch it to the bottom of the deck, activate Toa, and then you play back out Bula with its skills negated. And now you have a 5k blocker on field, which is great. But then you activate Janemba from hand, pick up Bula to your hand, so it loads another negate for your next turn and gives you more, gives you cycling on negates. And then gives you a target to go up the chain and the aggression of dual attack crit. So, like I said, in the current rule book, as it is right now, battle cards but the Dragon Balls, you pitch it under the Janemba, search your deck for a 4-drop Xeno Janemba, and play it in active mode. And then it is just a 5k boost if you want to combo with it. Meki Gabora can search this from your deck. And earlier I said that you're going to be pitching a lot of cards back to the bottom of the deck. So this is going to be your main target for that. So like when you search out your counter on your front side, you will pitch this to the bottom of the deck. If you have a Mecha Gabora in play, you will activate Mana Mecha Gabora and just add this card back to your hand. So you're not losing any hand advantage. You're basically just getting a free search. Just a decent target. And you always want to keep one of these in hand so you can go into your Janemba chain. Next card in the Janemba chain, probably my favorite of the whole chain, the Dark Parasite. So he's a critical body, and then on attack, he will, your opponent can choose one of their battle cards and warp it, or you get to draw one and untap one. Which, like I said, this chain is very, very energy efficient because it only takes 1 energy to get your skillless on field. And then all of this is free until you get to your big body. But if your opponent has no battle cards in play or chooses not to warp any of the battle cards, you will get to draw and untap, and basically allows you to get that 1 energy to go into your big boy. So he's 1 energy, EX Evolve, on top of 4-drop Xeno Janemba. You draw 2 cards, restand him. He's dual attack critical 25,000, which is absurd. And something that I've found with this deck is that a lot of people have experienced playing against other variations of Baby, and they expect the deck to be very turtley, very defensive. They don't expect you to explode up a chain like this and have so many attacks and so many draws. So a lot of people on their turn 2 going into your turn 3 will feel comfortable with tapping out and putting themselves in a vulnerable position because they don't expect you to be very aggressive. And then you rocket up this chain and it just really catches them by surprise. So if it's like your first time playing it against another player, try to keep this whole package kind of to yourself. Try not to charge it early on and telegraph what you're going to do, because you can really catch some easy games by just rocketing up the chain on turn 3.
25 double strike.
Going into some one-ofs, I run 1 actual skillless Janemba, So the deck's not 100% cheating in the current rulebook. I mean, paying 2 energy to be able to go up the chain is never a bad thing. And just run it because why not? It gives you more targets in case you don't see your package that you need to see. Run 1 Child's Army Reinforcement. I really only like this card because it just reminds me of the Spider-Man pointing meme. And it's a really good card, to be completely honest. So you counterattack, you will play 1 Child's Army token with the blocker skill, and then you can pay its counter for free by taking a life if you're at 5 or less life. So it's just a fantastic card, and it's essentially a dual negate because you will get that blocker out of it. 1 Champa, and 1 Baby Hatch because it's blue, and this is the best. It's the best blue secret rare in the game. Probably the best secret rare in the game, to be completely honest with you. This card is absurd. Like, you play it, it's GG game. You're good. It's over. But that's about it. Like I said, if you are interested in playing this deck at your locals.
So that means that thank you all for tuning in. Like we said earlier, there's buttons. Feel free to click them. They're there for a reason. But Jimmy, last words.
I forgot to show my tokens when I was talking about the Child's Army thing. I specifically like the Undertaker disrespecting Matt Hardy. I think that's the best token, to be completely honest. Obama's pretty good. You've seen that in the gameplay video, but I usually prefer to put Matt Hardy out.
Cool beans. With that being it.
Read your cards, know your plays.
I don't think they can hear you, man. Speak up.
Read your cards, know your plays, and like always, fluff out.